the hard reality of making things work. And Chris is one of those people that is really focusing with that hard reality, like what goes in between the fancy algorithm that is being created once in lab, or like some kind of an initial idea, and then building a product. So that's where the hard work comes in. So I like to ask you, Chris, what are like the top learnings in going from like conception to fruition?
There really is no silver bullet. So be skeptical when you think or anyone claims that just apply the machine learning magic and then it just works. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And a lot of it actually comes from just thinking about how you model the problem. There's a lot of effort that needs to go into sometimes, in part the nuts and bolts, like I've got training data of the following form, right? When you're building a model, usually in the, a lot of times in industry, you're building classification models, or you've got some input and you're predicting some category of outputs. This is spam or it's not spam at different kinds of results. So it's really setting the algorithms aside. It's actually in large part at first realizing that there is no magic salve. You're going to have probably a lot of human intervention, certainly early on. And two, there's a huge amount of this that's really about the modeling, much more so than it is the actual algorithms themselves, because there's whole classes and implementations and whatnot. But thinking about how you take those, and usually you're going to end up having some amount of integration with human elements. And there's actually branches of machine learning, like active learning and whatnot, that are related to how you sort of optimally take the human input and process it through these algorithms in order to achieve whatever that result is. And if you haven't modeled for that result at the beginning, you're kind of screwed through all the way to the end.
Something that all the new entrants in the job market do not fully realize the importance of human relationship, because in the end, people are the ones that they're going to work with you and so on. So building the social capital.
But companies come and go, right? Institutions are this sort of ephemeral secondary thing. It's the people that matter the most. And so keeping in contact, keeping those relationships up, but moving toward what drives me kind of passionately.
The learning here is, among other things, is to look at the functional. So what Chris is talking about is what is functional positioning is within, the life cycle of an organization, the life cycle of the product, and the life cycle of the project, and so on. And that basically, it's a different way of looking at things than saying, I've done the same thing for 5 years.
If you're overly terrified about starting a company, there's a lot of reasons why it's a very hard thing and to be scary. But at the end of the day, there's always another problem to go solve. So getting into it is, I think, in a large part, a mental battle for a lot of people. And then the tactical elements of it are pretty different from when you have, $1 billion revenue stream behind you and 50 managers that all have different things. And I mean, that's a very different world with its own interesting kinds of challenges, but it's very raw in a tiny company experience. And you really have to scale across business strategy, technical strategy, people management, product strategy. Like all of these things are, it's kind of everyone's domain. And if you're a co-founder, you're sort of extra, I think appropriately, extra held liable for even things like culture, right? Like